NFL Week 9 is upon us. We've got those primetime games, those barking dogs, and of course, those best bets. Is the Deli back open? We're going to talk to VR and get that Steam report up next on Bet on It. I don't know about you guys, but I am happy the music is back. Like, I'm happy the gang's back together. It's been really fun. And if you guys are happy too, let us know in the comments section. Kelly Stewart here, Gianni the Greek, Marco D'Angelo. We're halfway through the regular NFL season, well, at least after the end of this weekend. And the last couple weeks have been a little rough for me, guys. We're going to get through it, though. My favorites outside of the Denver Broncos are not winning. In fact, they're losing outright. And then every other favorite is not only winning, but covering by a pretty good margin. So Survivor done. Now it's time to focus on finding a few plays each and every week to make us some money. Thursday night football, Marco, Baltimore Ravens, 7.5 at Miami, 50.5. How can I not tease the Ravens here? Tell me why I cannot tease the Ravens here.
Well, I can't argue with you on that, Kelly, but I'm going to give you two plays on Thursday night. You're going to get a bonus, a little 2-for-1 special here. But we're going to go to the total. But I make it 3 plays, Kelly. I agree with taking Baltimore on the teaser. I will have some of those on Thursday night. But we know Lamar Jackson's going to be back, or at least the early reports definitely have him back. They had him back last week, too, as of Friday. And then Saturday, we got different information, and we saw that line crash, and it didn't matter. Baltimore rolled. They were coming off their bye week. With Jackson playing, we've seen this total move from 48.5 to 51. Personally, I think it's an overreaction. Jackson hasn't played in over a month, so he shouldn't be at the top of his game from the start. We also saw the Ravens do something the last 2 games that they probably should have been doing all year. They finally got Derrick Henry more involved in the offense. In the last 2 games, 45 carries, 193 yards. That's what we need from them here. And if they do that, Miami, they're allowing 5 yards per play on the ground. I expect Baltimore to have a lot of long drives, run the football. That shortens the game, shortens the clock. And you know, when you get these totals that hit in the 50s, you can't have many drives that come up empty and get to those totals. I think this one's going to stay under the number of 51. I think Baltimore wins this game, and I love them on a teaser as well. But I've got a bonus play for you. In addition to taking the under, our official play here on the show, I've got a second official play for you. We're going to take Baltimore right now at 2-5, and I can't wait to read the comments from you guys when I say this. We're taking Baltimore at 2-5 to win the AFC North at -130. Pittsburgh is in first place at 4-3. Pittsburgh's reeling. This defense is trash. I've told you that all year long. Got exposed again last week. Pittsburgh's going to come back to the pack. But here's the reason Baltimore is going to catch everybody. Their next 4 games, they play Thursday, Miami. Their record's 2-6. They play Minnesota, who's 3-4. We don't know who's quarterbacking for them. They play Cleveland after that, who's 2-6. After that, oh boy, they play the Jets, 1-7. What do you think their record's going to be after the next 4 games? Then if those 4 teams are combined 8-23. After that, their final 6 games of the season, the home stretch where they can be, get themselves fully healthy, work out all the problems, defense playing better. They play Cincinnati twice, Pittsburgh twice. So they're going to control their own destiny down the stretch. Give me Baltimore right now to win the AFC North at -130. That's your bonus play, guys.
Ooh, Ariel Epstein will be happy with that one. VR, we're going to go to Sunday Night Football, and this one's really intriguing. Seattle is a 3.5-point road favorite. They played better on the road, in fact, than they have at home. At Washington, 46.5. I know as of right now, Wednesday, 1:15 p.m. Eastern that we're filming, Jaden Daniels is not ago, he's also not out, right? It's early in the week.
He's returned. And he's practicing today. He's returned to practice today. Head coach said therapy's gone amazing. They're not rushing anything, but it looks good. It looks promising for Sunday. And based on this betting line, Kel, because the look ahead was 2.5. Obviously, the Daniels concern got bet up as high as 3.5. Now you're seeing it back down to 3 at a lot of places, 3 minus 115. Based on the betting line, it appears he's going to play, because I think the adjustment would be greater, obviously, if it was Mariota, especially coming off of that performance last week. So I'm approaching this as if he'll be playing. And just a disclaimer, I haven't released a premium play on this Sunday night game, but that's happened a lot on the, it's the TV game. We each get one. 6-2 on those for bet on it. 15, 8-1 in the NFL for bet on it this year. I'm taking Washington in this spot, and here's why. Seattle, impressive at 5-2, but they haven't really been tested. They've had the 22nd most difficult schedule in the NFL, and put together a defense that's barely top offense, that's barely top 10 against that weak schedule. So the weak side for Washington is their defense. That's the thing that concerns most. A bottom 5 in the league in far as defensive efficiency goes. Again, fortunately for them, they're not going up against a top 5 offense or even a legit top 10 offense here. Defensively, also, I think Seattle, although they appear to be a top 10 defense, I don't think that's warranted. It's based on strength of schedule more than anything else. When I look at the offense for Washington, 13th most efficient in the NFL against a top 15 strength of schedule. They're going to be able to score on the Seattle defense. It's a winnable game for Washington at home. I think there's a lot of recency bias factored into this betting line. You have a Seattle team that's coming off back-to-back wins, more importantly, back-to-back covers, and you have a Washington team that just got blown out by 3 touchdowns. Obviously, it was their backup quarterback, but they're a team now on a 3-game skid, straight up and ATS, and I think this is an overcorrection. Give me the home dog, Washington, plus the points for the TV game this week.
All right, Monday Night Football, and I'm not going to lie. At first glance, I thought, Dallas, only 2.5-point home dogs to Arizona, 54.5. And then I started thinking about that game last week where Marco gave us Denver as his best bet. I also was on Denver. It was one of my only bright spots, in fact, on the weekend. Dallas's defense got exposed once again. They gave it up 31 points per game, number 31 in the league. Now they've dropped 2 in a row. On the flip side, that offense still ranks number 2 in yards per game and scoring. So a lot of people looking at those overs, and I don't blame them. Fireworks, Monday Night Football. What could go wrong here? I'm going to chicken out. I'm going to chicken out on a lot of games this week. I asked Marco if I should just tease. Should I just tease the Ravens, Marco? And he said, yeah, I don't blame you. And I know this is a high total, but I think I'm just going to tease the Cardinals. I do think this is a winnable game. Kyler Murray returns for the Cardinals, and they're off a bye. 2.5 seems so fishy. Why isn't this line 3? Marco said it best before we started. VR mentioned that defense, and I'm going with it. Cardinals in a teaser. Easy, no sweat Monday Night Football winner, right? VR, speaking of sweat, we got the Steam Room every single Sunday on the Wager Talk YouTube channel right after you do Last Call with Ariel Epstein. This is a early version of the Steam Room where you kind of tell us some stuff you have seen early in the week for week 9 in the NFL.
Yep. And Sunday, we re-up on it and go over the list with Ariel on Last Call. Make sure you check that out. It's 8 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern. And, of course, the Steam Room, always that final hour leading into kickoff where we go over all the NFL games, side totals, player props, put together those plus EV teasers towards the end. and I answer all your questions. Make sure you join me on Sunday. Now, I've narrowed down the strongest sides, not as far as where I think are winners. Obviously, they think they're winners. They steamed it, but where I don't see resistance. I'll tell you where the ones that did get resistance, but most I don't expect to see buyback, and I've seen multiple groups on the same side. So start off with 451 Chicago -1.5 and 2.5. That's why you're looking at key numbers there. San Francisco and the Giants. The total, the look ahead was 45.5. Got hit at 45.5, obviously. 46, 47, 47.5, 48. They jumped up to 49. That's where you saw take back on the under. So a lot of over money from 46 and 47, but under at 49. Shows you just how tight these NFL totals are. We know the sides are really tight, but even the totals are extremely tight. 456. This one shouldn't surprise anyone, especially when you factor in some recency bias. Look ahead on New England was -3. Got hit immediately. 4.5 got hit. 5 got hit. 5.5 got hit. The sharper outs were already at 6 yesterday. Everyone else caught up today. The only question is, does this get to 7 next? That'll be a huge middle. It'll be interesting to see if it gets there. 457, another hot team right now. Look ahead on Indianapolis was 1.5 as road favorites against Pittsburgh. That got hit immediately before even Monday. So the look ahead was 1.5. The look ahead got hit to 2.5. So that became the look ahead, which then got hit again. And you're looking at that key number juice. The over as well. The look ahead was 49, got hit, went to 50. That got hit also. Want to see that follow through. 460 Green Bay, 10.5 was the look ahead. 11 got hit, 11.5, 12, 12.5 got hit. 465 Chargers -7.5 was the look ahead. They went to teaser protection immediately up to 9.5, 10. Those shops that went to 10, that's when you saw the Tennessee money come in. So they didn't take a lot of money at that -7.5, nothing really at 8, 8.5. They went straight to teaser protection because they knew Chargers would be one of the hottest teaser teams, and went to 10. And that's when you saw the Tennessee steam come in. 470 Rams, 12.5 was the look ahead, dummied down to 11.5, then bet all the way up through 13.5 and under 45.5 and 45. Usually double-digit favorites are correlated to the over. Not the case here. Steam the under. And finally, Arizona, Dallas, sharing this one because it's a primetime game. They get ahead a lot of times of the market by steaming the game over. That happened here. Look ahead was 52.5. When it got up to 54.5, that's when you saw the under. So obviously over money at 52.5, 53, under money at 54.5. Again, even on primetime games, tight totals. That's what I got so far. Again, we'll be followed up with Ariel on Sunday morning, last call.
All right. I have been in the comments a lot more. I promised myself I was going to get to you guys. And one of the comments last week, and I mentioned this on the College Football Show, was Marco Barco. How could I forget it? So that is what we're just going to start calling the Barking Dog segment, especially because Marco always goes first. Marco, there aren't, let me rephrase that. There are a lot of big dogs this week. There aren't a lot of palatable big dogs that can win outright. So tell me why you're going with the hometown team, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh, I can't wait to read the comment section this week with this play. And you know what, guys, I love the comments. You know, come in and guys will question the plays. They'll give me grief on plays. If you think I have a bad play, I respect you. You come in before the game. Like VR said in the last show, don't come in after the game and say what a bad pick it was. You know, we know the score. But you know what? You want to give grief beforehand, that's fine. We can discuss the games. I'll do that. And then, you know, let's go back and forth. You know, when I'm wrong, I'll tell you I'm wrong. But you know what? When I'm right, don't forget who was right. Like last week, we had a lot of comments on my Rice play. And I'm going to get a lot of comments on the Raiders. And here's the deal. The Raiders are coming off their bye. Now, I realize Jacksonville is too. But this is about as ugly as a team could head into a bye that you could possibly have. And I've told you guys over and over, the way I look at bye weeks, if a team's on a roll and they go into the bye, it's a momentum stopper. But if things are just pure trash heading into that bye week, they're going to come out of the bye week with their best performance. And if you remember earlier this year, Chicago was coming out of their bye week, and they went into the bye week bad. Caleb Williams wasn't playing well, and I said he's going to have his best game that week coming out of the bye, and he did. And it's because when things aren't working, you're going to be focused for those 2 weeks off. The coaching staff is going to look at what was working. They're going to keep that in the system. They're going to add some new stuff, and they're going to throw out what wasn't working. So you're going to have a better effort coming out of it. And for Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, they're getting a lot of heat out here. You know, people, as much respect as Pete Carroll has as a head coach, because of the way the Raiders have looked, you're getting people questioning maybe the game has passed him by. Maybe he's too old to coach. People are asking, where's this Chip Kelly offense at? You're going to see the best effort from the Raiders that they've had all year. Is that going to be enough to win this game? We're going to have to find out. But I'm going to couple that with the part of, do you really trust Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence to lay points on the road? This team has been ultra inconsistent. 1 week, they're beating San Francisco and Kansas City. And then the next week, they're losing to teams they shouldn't lose to. This is an inconsistent team. They've been that for years. I just don't trust them on the road. I'm going to trust the situation that we've got an embarrassed home underdog that's going to leave nothing on the table this week. But I will put this out there. Trust me. With the situation they have, everything favors the Raiders to come up with a good game. If they don't have a good game this week and they lose, and I don't cash a ticket on this one, they go straight to the do not bet list. I think there's going to be value on the Raiders here. I would not make this play until Sunday because there's only one way the public's going to bet this game. We're going to take the Raiders, and I'm going to call for the upset. Raiders 23-20. Go ahead and let me hear about it in the comments.
I'm going to let you hear about it right now. That sounds absolutely disgusting, Marco. Listen, here, I think we've gotten to the point of the season. And VR, I want you to talk about this because I think it's important. I said this on another show. There are just so many teams that I want to back week in and week out, right? Clay Travis and I do a show. He's a huge Titans fan. He said, I've been betting against the Titans all season long. And I said, that's funny because I have bet on the Titans in a few spots. Last week, I said, I'm not doing it enough. Thank goodness, because the Colts absolutely rolled. I know we're supposed to be betting teams, not numbers, but let's use that Titans team for an example.
I mean, betting numbers, not teams.
Yeah.
I'll correct you so they
Thank you. Yes, thank you. We're supposed to be betting numbers, not teams.
Correct.
The problem is some of these teams might have quit on the season. And we see it in college football. Sometimes when coaches get fired, those teams get rejuvenated. So what did I do? I took over the touchdown with the Titans versus the Patriots. 10-0. I'm rocking and rolling. Here we go. Titans are going to win this football game. This is awesome. And the Patriots just obliterated them in the second half. At what point do we just say, like Marco says, okay, enough. These teams are not catching up with the betting market, right? Clay was like, oh, well, this is the only team we've ever seen like this. No, it's not. The 2014 Browns, the wise guys couldn't get enough. And in that same sentence, they couldn't stop betting against Tom Brady and the Patriots week after week after week. Somebody make sense of this to me, whether it's the Jets. Yes, they finally got their win over the weekend. Oh, great. The Dolphins finally got that monkey off their back that's been plaguing them. But now we're starting to see teams like me with the Panthers last week. Like I'm looking back on, what an awful bet I made with Andy Dalton. So kind of walk me through that before we get into your best bet. Little, I don't know if we want to call it strategy, advice, whatever that is.
Yeah, let me explain it to you as clearly as I can. The best way. Trust your intuition. When you feel that you're betting a loser, don't do it. See, what you got to remember, Kel, the betting syndicates that are betting these numbers that you touched on, they have 40, 50 bets on that Sunday. That one side, such as Carolina plus the points, Tennessee plus the points, it's just one bet of another 30 that day. But for 99.5% of us, it's one of only 4 or 5 bets. And it matters a lot. For most, it may be the difference between winning and losing that day. That's the difference. If you're betting like they are, then you don't care what the name of the team is. You don't care if they keep losing by 30. It's just one bet, another plus EV bet that you trust based on your numbers, not on your opinion or what you see or anything like that. And like, there's no reason to it. It's strictly math. And you're only betting it because historically you've made money doing this, and you're just going to keep doing it over and over and over again. 99.5% of bettors don't approach it like that. And they're the ones that should be avoiding the Carolinas, the Tennessees, and that one team that's costing them a contest or costing them being profitable that week. Stay away from it. But for betting syndicates, like I said, it's just one bet out of the 400 that week that are going to fire. So there's no real opinion behind it. But that's what I say. If your intuition tells you, dude, I've seen this so many times, trust it, because you have seen it so many times and it's cost you in the past. And they probably won't have time to regress or progress towards the mean, because NFL's a short season. We don't have baseball where nobody's winning 65% of their games. No one's even winning only 25% of their games. Even the worst teams are going to fall between this percentage and the best teams between that percentage. And it happens every single year. Like in baseball, no team, maybe there's one outlier that wins, above 62, 63%. But that's not sustainable. NFL, little different. You're not playing that many games. A team can be that bad before the market has time to correct itself.
All right, tell me why you like the Steelers to bounce back from that ugly second half on Sunday night.
Yeah, and this is my live dog. I haven't gotten to the window with it yet because I fear fading a team that has been that hot like Indianapolis with a quarterback that's starting to regress, but they're still winning and covering. And here's what I mean. I've been talking about passing success rate, and Daniel Jones is number one. He's been number one now since week 2 or 3. Once you have enough pass attempts and completions to where you could actually start that it matters. And going into last week, he was at like 5% above the next guy. And when you look at guy number 2, quarterback number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in passing success rate, the difference between number 2 and 3 is like 0.5%. The difference between number 3 and 4 is like 0.5%. This guy was like 5% above the next guy. So I was looking to start the fade Indianapolis, thinking that's going to regress. The problem is he's regressed where now he's only 2.5% above the number 2 guy, Goff, and they still covered back-to-back games. I don't think that's sustainable. They've now won 4 straight, covered 3 of 4. And the argument I'm going to make, instead of talking about players and X's and O's, I'm going to keep it this simple. On a neutral field, Green Bay would be favored over Indianapolis. They wouldn't be big favorites, but they would not be underdogs to Indianapolis. Green Bay went into Pittsburgh last week, and that was about a 2.5 point line up until, a kickoff, more or less. You saw some threes, let's say. Well, Indianapolis got the 3.5 on this line. That's recency bias based on last week's results. Because again, we should never put too much stock in any one game. Pittsburgh and Green Bay could have played 4 hours later and the result could have been different. So with that said, based on that line, we're getting more points than we should. Take the Steelers, live dog, sprinkle that money line. Of course, I think they give the Colts their second loss of the season.
So I apologized for this dog on the college football show, and Marco was like, "Oh, you're giving out Chihuahua." I'm like, "That's why I'm giving out a bigger dog on the college football show." So make sure you guys head over to the Wager Talk YouTube channel and check out our Barking Dog segment over there as well. And I did consider using the Giants, not much of a dog either. And I did consider using the Bengals. But how are we going to do a whole show, right? Like, I'm in charge of this show and not talk about the Bills Chiefs. And I was like, well, I'll put the Bills in as my best bet, but they're not my best bet. I can't. But I want to talk about this game because this game is going to be awesome. Bills Chiefs, they have met 8 times since January 2021, 4 in the regular season, 4 in the playoffs. Who is not excited for this Sunday afternoon game? Chiefs, maybe starting to get the wheels in motion. Yes, Patrick Mahomes still had some mistakes on Monday Night Football. The good news is the Washington Commanders not good enough to go into Arrowhead and beat that team. Those mistakes, though, do pile up. Buckers had his own fair share of mistakes. If you guys remember, I bet against Buffalo last week thinking, hey, they don't really care about the Panthers off a bye. They're going to go in, sandbag it. Yeah, right. James Cook, my guy, single-handedly crushed fantasy teams across the board. The Red Rifle, or whatever his name is, was awful. I am done betting on Andy Dalton. Just go ahead and retire, my guy. That being said, we know Buffalo has one of the best home field advantages in the league. Kansas City, short week after playing Monday Night Football. Chiefs had not had a bye week yet. And maybe that's a good thing because, again, those wheels are in motion. But, again, I think we're paying just a little too much premium for Kansas City to be road favorites at Buffalo. I like Buffalo plus 1.5. I like Buffalo in teasers. And I like Buffalo plus 125. Marco D'Angelo. You know what I also like? The Deli sandwiches. I'm usually hungry around this time on Wednesdays. And the Deli has been feeding me all season long. 23-16. That includes your specialty Deli segment that is on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. This week, I just said it. We're not betting on this guy. And then I look on the schedule. And now what are we doing?
I'm just sitting there while you're just going on your rant going, oh, God, I can't wait till we get to my sandwich game. Hey, Kelly, we're taking Carolina, okay? And here is the thing, all right? You've got to trust the process. And here's the process. We got so many situational items to look at. And, Kelly, the one thing that you didn't say, though, with Buffalo last week against Carolina. I get everything you said, and I understood the thinking there. And the only reason I didn't get involved in that game, because you could say, hey, yeah, look past Carolina to the Kansas City game this week. That made total sense, other than Buffalo was coming off their bye week. And what did they do prior to their bye week? They lost 2 games in a row. Again, those teams that go in hot or go in cold, it's a different situation. Now we're going to talk about Carolina. And I've got so many angles to put out there in the universe. And, let's talk about it in the comments. Let's start with the scheduling here. We got Green Bay that's coming off a Sunday night game against the Steelers. Okay. That was a big game, TV game, Sunday night. What do they got next week? They got the defending champs, Philadelphia, the team that they're probably going to have to face somewhere along the line in the playoffs. Green Bay. And wait, what's those 3 letters behind that game? Monday Night Football. Yeah. How often do you get a TV sandwich? You got Sunday Night Football and then you got Monday Night Football, and they were both marquee games. Now let's throw in the other part of it, where you've got the double sandwich spot team-wise and game-wise. Let's talk about Jordan Love. Going into the Pittsburgh game last week, all we heard about, the narrative was, Aaron Rodgers is going to stick it to his old team. Aaron Rodgers has beat every team in the NFL except the Green Bay Packers. Because he's never played against them, because he played for them all that time. Yeah, that was the narrative. Everybody forgot about Jordan Love. Do you think he had something to prove in that game? Do you think he's feeling a little fat and sassy after the performance he had? He had his best game of the year against the guy that, really, let's be honest, wasn't very nice welcoming him to Green Bay when they drafted him. He has to be feeling fat and sassy. I can't see him having the same type of effort here. I know he's playing Carolina. You're going to look past Carolina after what happened to them last week. And what do we have? We got an inflated number. You're getting 13 points with Carolina. Should Green Bay really be laying this many points in this game with that scheduling spot? I'm going to trust what I've done for 4.5 decades with situational plays. And it tells me and it screams to me that Carolina's the play this week. And as we always say, no team is as good as their best game, nor are they as bad as their worst game. And Carolina clearly coming off one of their worst games. I look for them I'm not going to say they're going to go in there and win this game outright, but this game's going to be a lot closer than people think. I'm taking Carolina. I'll talk to you guys in the comments. I'll defend myself there.
Yeah, Marco, listen, I get it. It's a lot of points. I'm going to use Green Bay in some of my survivors. This reminds me of that Bengals game where the Packers just kind of played with the Bengals for 4 quarters. There was nothing really that exciting. You're right. Bigger game on deck. 12.5 points. I hope Andy Dalton does not Andy Dalton you. How about that? That's what I hope. Take the points here with the Panthers. Oh boy. We do have some bigger dogs here in the best bet section, so we're going to get right into it. VR, you are up first. Before you tell me why this over a touchdown underdog is your best bet, let me know what you got going on over at wagertalk.com.
All right, I got a big week planned and a bigger weekend. Already starting off college football Thursday, prime time, 4% best bet. We've been crushing those primetime games. That's already available. Saturday's package already up with college football, 4% fired in there. Sunday NFL package hasn't gone up yet because I'm confirming a 5% that I have. So I'm going to have to wait till later in the week. Already know the side I'm taking, but there'll be timing on when to bet it. Sometimes it matters more than anything else. So that'll be available as well. And of course, there's UFC on Saturday and NBA each and every night, NHL each and every night, college basketball just around the corner. Number one in college football and NFL combined. So let's just keep it going. Now, as far as bets go, I'm going to have to do it. And I'm going to fade Detroit in this spot. Now, I have a future on Detroit. I even have Detroit to win the Super Bowl. Okay. So I'm a Detroit fan and I have them the second best power rating team in all of the NFL. In fact, I almost changed this best bet when Kelly was talking Kansas City, Detroit, because a couple things jumped out at me in that game that I like a lot, but I haven't fired a premium yet on this either. Like I said, in the NFL, only one game released so far. Going to stay selective. But this is just too many points, too big of an adjustment. The look ahead was 7.5, got up to 9.5, came back down, went back up. Now back sitting around 9 on the Detroit Lions. Now they've owned this series. They've covered 9 straight against Minnesota. I don't believe in the do factor. Each game's independent of the other, but the line's going to be biased based on that result. I think we're looking at a biased line. Then you got to factor in the recency. You have a Minnesota team that's coming off allowing 37 points and getting blown out by 4 touchdowns. Flip side of that coin, Detroit not only gets the win and cover, but they outperform the market by 2 touchdowns. So there's going to be that recency bias. Then you add to the fact that Minnesota lost their backup quarterback, and in comes rookie Max Brosmer, who has, pretty much zero experience in the NFL. Here's the problem that I'm having. The downgrade is what we have to factor. And other than experience, what we saw when Wentz went down was he was below the NFL average in passing success rate, which is the highest correlation when it comes to winning football games. The last 2 games he started, he had a 67.5 passer rating and a 64.9 passer rating. This Brosmer kid, who's coming from Minnesota, finally getting to play for the Minnesota Vikings, dream come true for this kid. I think it's even better that again, it's hard to go win on the road as a rookie. He doesn't have to win on the road. He just has to keep it within margin. And when you look at Detroit, they're a 5-win football team, 5-2, with a point differential of 65. So again, they're coming off a blowout, but if you look at their games, they don't have the huge point differential. And laying double digits is a little bit too much. I know it's scary to take a team like Minnesota in this spot, 3rd-string quarterback, rookie on the road against Detroit, but the spread becomes the great equalizer. And this is just more points than we should be getting. It's NFL, and I think a team like Minnesota going up against a defense that's not top 10 could keep it close with a top 15 offense. So give me Minnesota plus the 9, best bet of the week.
VR, real quick follow-up question. Do you think people using Detroit and Survivor should be wary?
No, because they're home.
Okay.
They're home. I don't think they're going to lose this game, Kel.
Okay.
I don't. And usually I want my dog to be live. I'm just keeping it real. If I thought Minnesota could win this game outright, felt like that confidence that I get with dogs, I'd have fired a premium and sent it out to subscribers. That's what held me back. I think they have enough to keep it within the margin and give you 60 minutes of effort. They, you just can't keep losing. And it's a rival like Detroit that's owned you. So that's where I think the back door stays open. But I don't think they're capable of beating the Lions because of that number one offense. I don't think Minnesota has the defense to just stop them enough to win the game outright.
Makes sense to me. Marco, the Weekend Warrior over at wagertalk.com has been absolutely awesome. But you have a better offer for our viewers now.
Yeah, this week you can get any handicapper at Wager Talk. You know the Weekend Warriors, $49 to get you Saturday and Sunday and of college and pro football. And then if their handicapper that you bought has a Monday night play, you get that as well. Well, listen to this deal. Instead of $49 for a weekend, how would you like to have a package that comes out to just $35 per week and it gets you every football play all week long, college and pro, all the way through the national championship game in college and the Super Bowl in the NFL. Just $490, you can get the rest of the football season, both college and pro, and that comes out to just $35 per week. And that $35 number, what do we have at Wager Talk that's, 5% plays are $35. You're basically paying what you would pay for just a 5% play, and you're getting everything for the week. Head over, pick your favorite capper, and sign up. Is VR told you he's got a big weekend coming. I've got another 5% coming this weekend as well. We nailed our 5% last week with the Houston Texans, and that brings our record to 34-16 the last 2 years, Wager Talk. So head on over and grab a package, whether it's the Weekend Warrior or the rest of the season, and keep the winning going. And speaking of keeping the winning going, we cashed that best bet last week. Let's see if we can do it again. And last week, I went against San Francisco. Big. This week, we're going to go with them, and here's why. We're going to start the game with the obvious. Obviously, the Giants took a big hit last week, losing Cam Scatterbo for the rest of the season. He was having a huge rookie year. Now, I know all of you are going to say, but Marco, aren't you the guy that always talks about the injured player theory? Yeah, I do. But this one hits a little bit differently, and here's why. He was a big part of their offense, okay? Both running the football and coming out of the backfield, catching the pass. And how many times have I told you that a good running game makes an average quarterback good, and it'll make a good quarterback great? Well, the quarterback that we're talking about here is Jackson Dart, who has 5 career starts. He is going to miss Scatterbo. Now, whether the next guy up plays well and can keep things going, we'll wait and see. But Scatterbo was just one of those players. He was like a little bowling, ball. He just, crashed the line in, the way he would jump up and the antics. And the two of them seemed to feed off of one another. I think this offense is going to struggle without them. And it's going to put too much pressure on Jackson Dart to have to try to carry the team. I don't think he's ready for that, especially not against a 49er defense. Yeah, I know the 49er defense is banged up. And I know the 49er defense gave up a ton of yardage last week. I was pulling out what little hair I had left in the first half when Houston kept going up and down the field and having to settle for field goals, and went in at halftime a one-score game, basically 16-7, when they totally dominated the game. The 49ers are just well coached. And when you look at this Giant defense, the last 2 weeks, they gave up 33 and 38 points. Then you look at the fact the way they lost 2 weeks ago in Denver and then had their dose of reality last week, getting smacked around by Philadelphia, and now are sitting at 2-6. It's another lost season, and I'm concerned that this team just may quit. I'll give you another stat. Since 2023, the Giants, when they're involved in a game where the line is +3 to -3, they're just 1-8 against the spread. Now, when you have those type of games, basically those games are coin flips. That's why the line's, between the threes. Oftentimes, the difference in that game might come down to coaching. And when we know, if we're going to compare coaches between the 49ers and the Giants, there's no comparison. Kyle Shanahan is far and away the better coach. Give me the better coach. Give me the better defense. I'll go ahead, give me the overall better team. And yes, I know the Giants are banged up. Yes, I know they're playing on the road back-to-back weeks and 4th and 5 games, but they find a way to win. Remember that Thursday night game that they played on a short week with like half the roster out, it seemed, and they found a way to beat the Rams? Yeah, they bounced back this week. Give me the 49ers. I'll lay the small number. 49ers 27-17.
I got a phone call this week from my family member going, Kelly, do you think the Broncos can win the Super Bowl? And I'm like, wow, okay. Sky high expectations there in Denver. Look, Denver looked great again last week. I told you guys I liked him. Marco gave him out as a best bet. Patrick Surtain got hurt, though, and he is an intricate part of that defense.
That's what it is. Their defense, top 4, Kel. They're a top 10 team. They just got into my top 10 power rating wise. Denver.
Listen, I don't want to discredit what they've been able to do. I'm not necessarily a believer, but this offense is good, and it does deserve some credit. The problem is I think they're getting a little too much credit here, and just like last week, Houston was that home little favorite. Marco mentioned between the threes. The Texans have done really well. 4-1 against the spread between the threes there at home. Denver on the road. We know all 3 road games this year have stayed under the total. That offense does not perform as well as they do in Mile High. Again, no Patrick Surtain is good news for CJ Stroud, who had a really great performance against the 49ers, even though he didn't have Nico Collins or Christian Kirk. 30 of 39, 318 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm sorry. I got to go against my Denver Broncos, getting just a little too much love here. I'm going to lay the 1.5 here with the Houston Texans. Let's get that recap graphic up for all you cheaters that scroll to the end. We'll say goodbye to VR. We'll say goodbye to Marco. We're going to say goodbye to you guys. But before we do, don't forget to check out the mega show. That's right. Everything put together in one little area. And then, of course, you got the college football edition of Bet on It right here as well.
2 charts, 4 NFL systems, and we'll be on our way. I am Ralph Michaels. This is the Wager Talk NFL TNA report. We are into November. Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to watch this video. How do teams in an NFL division sandwich do? Are NFL double-digit favorites more productive early in the season or late in the season? I have a chart for both. And we're going to finish it off with 4 NFL systems that are 70%, 67%, 66%, and since 1990, our final system, 61-17, 78%. Think about it, 35 years, over 80 game sample size. That's the way we're going to finish this. Well, welcome again. Let's get right to it, and let's talk about NFL division sandwiches. We often read or watch people doing videos and they say, oh, this team is in a tough spot. They played a division foe last game. They have a division foe on deck. Well, let's quantify what those teams have done. 3 teams apply in a division sandwich this week: Saints, Raiders, and Titans. This data is since 2021, and I will post this chart on Twitter to allow you more time to study more closely. Well, on the very top line, let's take a look at every NFL division sandwich situation since 2021. Teams in a division sandwich as a home favorite, 56% against the spread, a positive. I bet you thought it was going to be a negative. Home dogs in that role, only 37%. And away favorites and away dogs, just at the 50% mark. Away favorites, 52.9 at the Mendoza line, and away dogs, 22 and 22 with 2 pushes, 50%. But take a look at the home dog column all the way down. On the left, after they all, you see P:"win. That means the team won their first game of the division sandwich. Then how did they do if they won at home? How do they do if they won away? Then on the bottom, teams lost that division game the previous game, and then lost home and lost away. Take a look at some of those red numbers. If you are in a division sandwich and you won your division game last week, you're only 44% as a home favorite and only 18% as a home dog. Folks, that is a fade situation to me. The Raiders and Titans in that very negative division sandwich situation. But if you won the first game and you're on the road, 56.5% as an away favorite and 54.2% as an away dog. Take a look at the bottom chart in gray. P:"loss. That means you're in an NFL division sandwich and you lost versus division foe last game. Well, if you're a home favorite this week and you lost last week, you've gone 13-5, 72% against the spread. If you're a home dog, an away favorite, or an away dog, and you lost last week, your division foe, fade, fade, fade. Home dogs, 47.4%. Away favorites, 45.5%. And away dogs, 45%. So again, Saints, Raiders, and Titans are in an NFL division sandwich. Sometimes it's a positive, but many times it's also can be a negative. Chart number 2. NFL double-digit favorites since 2015. People think, oh, I shouldn't be betting NFL double-digit favorites. Take a look at those records, guys, in column 1. This, again, goes all the way back to 2015. I often use that year for my longer term because that's when they moved the extra point back, and we had legitimate scoring and margins, that type of situation. But September, 65%. October, 60%. November, 50%. Not a positive, but the Mendoza line, but not a horrible number. December, double-digit favorites, 57%. And regular season January games, 52%. But double-digit home favorites, all the way down the category, guys, everything is 51% and higher. And double-digit away favorites, you'll see that early in the season, they're a little better. Down the stretch, in November, December, and January, double-digit away favorites have gone 27-25 with 2 pushes, 52%. So just about the Mendoza line. But double-digit home favorites, September and October, 62% the first 2 months of the season. November, December, and January, not bad, 73 and 61, 54.5%. So not a reason to fade them, just not the impressive 62% when we have much better weather during September and October. Guys, if you were on board this past week, I want to thank you. We did cash our college football 5%. It was a totals play on Toledo and Washington State under the total. I did only go 2-3 in college football this week and 1-3 on Saturday. So that did put a damper on it. And then Sunday, I only had 1 play, and a couple customers reached out and said, how can you only have 1 play on an NFL Sunday? Guys, I am not here to force action. If I'm going to bet the play, if it is worthy to bet, I'm going to bet it and release it to you. Be it 1 game, be it 2 games, be it 3 games, be it 5 games. Last week was not a card I liked. There were a lot of teams on buys. So therefore, I had one play, it did cash. So again, lower volume has led to great success the last couple years in football. The Weekend Warrior this week is in effect only $49. I do want to mention I will have a college football 5% this week. That play by itself is $35. So for $14 more, you can get all of my college football plays on Saturday and my NFL on Sunday. The Weekend Warrior, the way to go. Let me share some records with you guys. A 20-10, 67% all sport run. College football, 11-3, 79%. And 38-18, 68%. My last 56 college football plays. College football plays 4% and higher. A perfect 5-0 and 19-6, 76%. As I said, I cashed a college football 5% last weekend. I'll have one this Saturday, 10-2, 83% on those top rated college football 5% plays. And I'll also have a strong NFL teaser. My NFL teaser is now 27-8, 77%. And NFL teasers rated 4% or 5%. Again, I will have one this week, 18-4, 82%. Hit that like button, guys. Leave a comment, please. It helps our algorithms. If you see something you want, a chart you want, a situation you want looked up, please share, and I will try to get it on for you. And make sure you are following Wager Talk on all their social media networks. Over 300,000 people follow Wager Talk social media. Make sure you're part of this ever-growing group, as we will continue to provide you more and more free information each and every sport throughout the year. 4 systems, let's get to them. We'll have you out of here in just a couple minutes. First, we are looking at conference away favorites of 7 or more, and their opponents are a bad turnover team. Well, how do we quantify bad turnover team? You have to average minus half a turnover per game. So if you've played 4 games, you have to be minus 2 turnovers or more. If you've played 8 games, you have to be minus 4 turnovers or more. 2 teams apply this week, the LA Chargers and the Baltimore Ravens. The away favorites playing a conference game against a foe that is a bad turnover team, 32, 14-2, 70% against the spread since 2017. Again, that is play on the Chargers and the Ravens. Well, the Raiders weren't completely embarrassed last week. 2 weeks ago, excuse me, against the Chiefs. A shutout and under 100 yards. Well, guess what? The offense struggled again last week, scoring 10 points or less. The Jaguars' offense looked bad as well. They scored 10 points or less. So when we have 2 teams that each have scored 10 points or less, and the total is 41 points or higher, this goes back to 1998. This is an over-under trend that applies again to the Raiders and Jags. The over-under, 34 overs, 17 unders. That is 67% to the over. System 3. Away teams as a favorite or a dog to +7. They are off a bye and they are off a loss. 2 teams that apply this week, the Cardinals and the Jaguars. So the Cardinals and Jags both have at least 13 days rest. They're off a loss, they're on the road, and they're either a favorite or a dog up to a touchdown. Those teams have gone 51, 26-2, 66.2% against the spread, and that dates back to 2007. Our fourth and final system for this week in the NFL TNA video: non-division away teams that are off a home loss that they fail to cover by 25 points or more. Only one team applies. Which team is red-faced because they got blown out at home and now they're a road division, non-division game? That would be the Atlanta Falcons. They were embarrassed at home last week. Well, those teams have bounced back to the tune of 70, 31, and 3, 69% since 1990. But wait, didn't I say there was a 78% system? There is. Let me just add one subset to that. Again, the Falcons, non-division away teams off a home loss that they failed to cover by 25 or more, 69%. But if we eliminate teams that are a dog of 8 or more, so they're either a away favorite or an away dog to +8, that moves to 61, 17, and 3, 78.2%. We're talking 35 seasons. We're talking over 80 games of sample size. That is an impressive 78% NFL system. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you learned one thing at all, please hit that like button. Make sure you're following Wager Talk TV, and hopefully you are part of what is going to be a great weekend warrior package, including a college football 5%. Check out my college football TNA video. Have a great week of football, and I'll be back next week.
Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers for a moment, while they still have a winning record, because I don't think Pittsburgh is necessarily going to have a winning record for much longer. In fact, it is time to sell the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that got outgained by a full 2 yards per play last week, and that's been something we can expect for Pittsburgh right now. Why? It's the NFL's highest paid defense, and it's a defense that, how do I say this politely? It has problems, big problems. Jordan Love last week, 9.7 yards per pass attempt, no interceptions, no sacks. And that kind of stands out. This is a team that defensively, number 17 in yards per rush allowed, number 24 in yards per pass attempt allowed. We think of the steel curtain. You're my age. You remember Pittsburgh from the late 70s. That was the team. Yeah, steel curtain's a long way in the rearview mirror now. The Big Ben teams are a long way in the rearview mirror now. This team, again, their defense has been gassed. They're only number 17 in yards per rush allowed and no number 24 in yards per pass attempt allowed with the league's highest paid defense. Those numbers could get worse before they get better. I'll talk about why in just a minute. How about the quote from defensive captain Cameron Hayward last week after the loss? Quote, "There's not a lot of fight in us right now. And frankly, think back to each of Aaron Rodgers' last 3 teams. His last year in Green Bay, both his teams were at the Jets. Both his years were the Jets. The teams that Aaron Rodgers led, there wasn't a lot of fight in those teams. And now it's transferred to Pittsburgh. 2 weeks ago, the Steelers were, they have a 3.5 game lead in the division. And then now they lost to the Bengals. They lost to the Packers. Now it's a 1.5 game lead, and Baltimore woke up. This team's tied for number 22nd in yards per rush. They're tied for number 18 in yards per pass attempt. The offense isn't that good. I already talked about the defensive numbers. Number 16 yards per play offense, number 24 yards per play defense. Mediocre and bad. So how are they sitting with the winning record right now? They're tied for 7th in turnover differential. They're tied for 4th in red zone defense. They only allowed 50% touchdowns in red zone. Number 3 in red zone offense. 74% of the time they've scored touchdowns in the red zone. Only Philly and Washington are better. And those aren't sustainable for Mike Tomlin's squad. I don't expect turnover differential to continue to be as high as it is. I don't think the red zone defense can possibly live up to number 4 or the red zone offense number 3 long term. And you look at the schedule upcoming, it gets a whole lot tougher. Indy, the Chargers, the Bengals, the Bears, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Lions on the way for Pittsburgh. It's time to sell this team. We'll look for the Steelers to come back to earth / get below 500. I'm not a Pittsburgh believer at this stage of the season.
Who's hungry? The Deli's open. Hey guys, Marco D'Angelo here for another edition of Marco's Deli, powered by wagertalk.com. We got 5 more big winners for you this week as we try to keep things rolling along. The Deli, we've had 8 episodes so far, 5 winning episodes, 2 losing episodes, and 1 break-even episode. Last week, 2 and 3 on the show. NFL continues its torrid pace. We're 7-1 on the season with those NFL plays. Let's keep it rolling. Let's get into this week's plays here on the Deli. And I do want to thank you guys for stopping by. I really appreciate you guys watching the show and helping out the channel. You know, every time you give us a thumbs up or leave us a comment, it really helps out the channel, helps it to grow, and we can help more people win betting college and pro football. So I appreciate you guys doing that. Let's get things started with the first game on this slate this week. And we're going to take a look at Kentucky at Auburn. Now, we're looking to fade Kentucky in this one. They've just played a 3-game gauntlet of Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee, with the last 2 games against Texas and Tennessee at home. Now, this is a situation where I just got to wonder what's left in the tank for Kentucky. 2 weeks ago, they took Texas to the limit, losing by 3, 16-13 in gut-wrenching fashion. And then last week, they came back and played Tennessee. It was an absolute track meet. Both teams went up and down the field. Tennessee ended up pulling away 56-34. And I know they're getting 10.5 points here. And a knee-jerk reaction would be to grab those points because Kentucky put up a lot of points last week. And this Auburn team at times has not scored a lot, but I just can't do it. Sitting at 2-5, Kentucky, I just don't think they have anything left in the tank. Where Auburn, after their win last week on the road against Arkansas, they're now 4-4 on the season. And they are still working to be bowl eligible. And I think you're going to get a big effort out of them. And the difference in this game clearly is the Auburn defense. We're going to go ahead and take Auburn. We're going to go ahead and lay the 10.5 for play number 1. Play number 2, we're going to take a look at Georgia Tech at NC State. Now, to me, this is what I refer to as a trap game for Georgia Tech. They're now in the top 10. They come in at number 8 as they push their record to 8-0 last week after their blowout win over Syracuse 41-16. Well, let's not get too excited. It was Syracuse, and Syracuse is having a dismal season. This is uncharted water for Georgia Tech. What I mean by that is that teams that generally are not in this position, and what I'm talking about is being undefeated this late in the season at 8-0, teams feel a different type of pressure. And a lot of times that pressure makes teams play not to lose instead of playing to win. It's not something you want when you're laying points on the road. Now we've got an NC State team, they had 445 yards of offense last week in their loss at Pitt. It was just a crazy game. Pitt's been putting up points in bushels. I think that NC State bounces back at home here, and I think they give Georgia Tech a major scare here. I think this one goes right down to the final possession of the game, and I'm going to go ahead and take NC State plus the 5.5. And don't be surprised. I don't think we're going to need the points. I think Georgia Tech may suffer their first loss of the season on Saturday. If not, I see this coming down to a field goal game either way at the end. Let's grab those 5.5 with NC State for play number 2. Play number 3, we're going to stay with an SEC game, and we're going to take a look at South Carolina at Ole Miss. Now, South Carolina is another one. It is in a horrible scheduling spot. They just played back-to-back home games against Oklahoma and Alabama. And last week, and we called it, we said they were going to give Alabama a battle, and they did. Alabama, they took them to the limit. They were a 12.5-point underdog last week, and they ended up only losing by 7. And the 7-point difference came late in the game. is that game was neck and neck the entire way. They gave Alabama that big scare. Now, after a gut-wrenching loss like that, you got to ask yourself, what is left in the tank for South Carolina? Are they going to be able to pick themselves up off the mat after that type of loss? Ole Miss, well, they bounced back from the first loss of the season. 2 weeks ago, they lost on the road at Oklahoma. Now, we know Oklahoma has a very good defense, but Mississippi still put up 34 points on the road in that game. Now, back at home, I just don't see South Carolina being able to trade points with Mississippi. And this is a spot where I think Mississippi pulls away. And we know what Lane Kiffin does when he's got a lead. He doesn't take his foot off the gas. This is a guy that keeps the pedal to the metal. I think this one gets ugly, gets out of hand. Ole Miss rolls. I'll go ahead and lay the 12.5 with Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. All right, before we get to the final two plays on this week's show, got a little bit of business to take care of. First off, again, thank you for watching the video. You got to this point of the video, you like what you're seeing, hey, it's easy to help us out. Just give us that thumbs up or leave us a comment. I love you guys telling me what you like about the show, what games you agree with, which ones you don't. And I enjoy hearing where you guys are all watching me from. Love to hear all the different parts of the country where you guys are located. I appreciate each and every one of you, as you really do help out the channel. And I enjoy sharing this information with you, hopefully making you a few bucks along the way as we've been doing. And if you like the way we handicap games and you want to take it a step further, you could always sign up for my plays over at wagertalk.com. We've got a special that we've been running. It's very popular. It's the Weekend Warrior package. You can get all of my plays Saturday and Sunday in college and pro football, all of my football Saturday and Sunday for just $49. If I have a Monday night game, guess what? It's included as a free bonus in the Weekend Warrior package. You can head over to wagertalk.com to get that. But if you want an even better deal, we've got something going for you this week. You can get the rest of the season, college and pro football. That's all college plays through the national championship in mid-January, and all NFL plays through the Super Bowl in February. This comes out to just $35 a week. It's $490 for this package. You divide that out, it's $35 a week. We're charging $49 for the Weekend Warrior package, which is a heck of a deal as it is. This will get you every play, every day in football, both college and pro. And guess what? It even includes those 5% plays. And you know the 5% plays sell for $35 by themselves. With that rest of the season package, it's just $35 a week for the rest of the season. Okay, guys. And if you want a direct link to my site, you can go to wt.buzz/MD. All right, let's get to the final two plays. One more college play for you, and we're going to take a look at USC at Nebraska. Now, let's start with the line in this game. This line is inflated, in my opinion. We're looking at a number of 6 in this game, and what I am looking at here is the situation. These two have a common opponent, Michigan. They both played Michigan at home. Now, if we look at that game, Nebraska closed at a -1 favorite over Michigan at home earlier this year. When USC faced Michigan at USC, they closed a 2.5-point favorite. So the common denominator is Michigan. They both played them at home, and Nebraska was a 1.5 higher favorite than Nebraska was. So what Vegas is telling us is this line should be -1.5. If you factor in maybe recent performances, you might add another point and a half to the USC side. So at most, this line should be 2.5 or 3. It's 6. There's too much value on Nebraska to pass them up. Also, we know that USC is not the same team on the road. They've played 3 road games this year. They're 1-2 straight up in those games. Nebraska, I think, is playing with house money right now. Nebraska's been a long time since they've been relevant, okay, as far as on the national landscape of things. They are already bowl eligible. They've only got 2 losses on the season at 6-2. One of those losses was to Michigan. The other loss was 2 weeks ago at Minnesota. Now, the Minnesota loss was a bad loss, but I'm going to tell you what, that was the second of back-to-back weeks on the road, and they had to play on a short week. They played on a Saturday the week before in Maryland in a barn burner. They won that game, and then they had to play right back on a short week on a Friday night in Minnesota. That's tough enough. What complicates it even more, if you remember that week, that was the week James Franklin got fired from Penn State. And there were a lot of rumors swirling around that Mark Rule was going to leave Nebraska to go to Penn State to take that job, being that he went to Penn State and everything. He said all the right things that week, that he wasn't going and all of that, but it still looked like a very distracted Nebraska team that week. He's still in Nebraska, and rumors out of Nebraska from my sources, I do radio there every week, is that they are working on a long-term contract to re-sign him right now. So I think you're going to get a focused Nebraska team. They're already bowl eligible. Now it's all gravy. They just get a better bowl game for each win they notch. And knocking off USC will put them up in the rankings. I'm going to go ahead and take Nebraska here. I think they get the job done. We know that USC is all about the offense. We know what Lincoln Riley's teams are. It's all offense, no defense. I got the better defense with Nebraska. You know what I always say. Give me the better defense, getting points, especially at home, and at a number that I think is inflated. Yeah, let's sign up for Nebraska +6. And the final game for this week on the Deli, guys, it's an NFL game. Can we make it 8-1 on the season with these NFL plays? Let's do it. Arizona at Dallas, Monday Night Football. I always say, when teams go into the bye on a losing note, they generally come out with their best effort coming out of the bye. Well, you can't go into the bye any worse than losing 5 in a row, and that's what the Arizona Cardinals have done. Now, they're also going to be coming out of the bye week with their starting quarterback back behind center. We've got Kyler Murray returning from injury. And remember, Kyler Murray, whether you like him or not, he has been a quarterback that has been up and down through his career. One consistent thing with him is that when he starts, and they're a road underdog, the Cardinals 21-9 against the spread is a road underdog with Kyler Murray at the helm. The Cowboys defensively, well, what can we say? It's just pure trash. They're giving up 405 yards per game. I can't lay points with a team that has a defense that bad. Then you throw in the Cowboys. They're 1-9 when they're a home favorite of 5 points or less in a non-division game. This isn't a division game, so that angle applies. And last but not least, it does look tempting to take Dallas at -2.5 with that offense. But guys, think about it for a second. You got a team that's lost 5 in a row on the road, taking on a Dallas team returning home after losing in Denver. It was an ugly loss, but they still put up points. This is a team that puts up a lot of points. Doesn't it look a little fishy that this line is under a field goal for Dallas at home, the way they score? Yeah, there's a reason. This is a trap. Let's go ahead. Let's take Arizona plus the 2.5 for the final game of this week's Marco's Deli. Hey, guys, I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. I sure had fun sharing this information with you. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Remember, if you wanted to take advantage of any of those specials over at Wager Talk, just head over to wagertalk.com. Go to my homepage. You'll find those deals. And, of course, thank you for watching. And give us a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. And, as always, good luck. And let's eat good at the deli this week, guys. I'll see you next week.
College football week 9 is upon us. We've got some top 25 games, some barking dogs. We got the Steam report with VR. Is the Deli back open? An astonishing 61.7% on the season. And of course, we've got those best bets coming up next on Bet On It. All right, starting off with these top 25 games, and I'm going to go first. 12 p.m. Eastern, number 9, Vanderbilt, plus 2.5 at number 20, Texas, 45.5. I did a show this morning with some of my good friends over there on Bet Sweats, and they said, Kelly, is Vanderbilt going to be a square dog this week? And I thought, man, they might be. This Vanderbilt team, 15-6 against the spread since the beginning of last season. 5-1 against the number with an average cover margin of 13.1 points per game on the road in the SEC. I like this Vanderbilt team. Diego Pavia won another game. They said that they could not win. Last year, Texas went to Nashville, 17-point road favorites, and Vanderbilt gave them a scare. And it's scary. Arch Manning got knocked out last week versus Mississippi State. Texas needed overtime to just give me one of those, another double-digit lead blown by my underdogs and my 3-team moneyline parlay. If Arch isn't a go, Matthew Caldwell seems serviceable, but this guy's got to bounce around from school to school. He's had 5 starts in his college career, 8 interceptions in those games. I know that Vanderbilt might seem square, but I am not in the business of laying points with this Texas Longhorns team, and I'm probably not going to get involved in this game. I have Texas not to make the playoff. I have Texas under season wins, so I'm just going to sit back and hope the Doors can get the job done for me. VR, you're up next, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Number 18, Oklahoma, is a 3.5-point underdog at number 14, Tennessee. 56.5 is the current total.
Yeah, and just a disclaimer, I haven't bet this game like as a premium play for subscribers. 8-1 right now on the TV game for Bet On It. 20-7 overall in college football for the show. But I do like the Oklahoma side. I think this is a big test for Tennessee. We know how loaded they are on offense. I can't disagree. This is the number 1 offense in all of college football. They're the number 1 most efficient offense. They're like number 1 in scoring. They're number 1 in yard, like all the stats that actually matter as far as offense. They're the best, but they're going up against a really good defense in Oklahoma. It's a top 10 defense. So they're really going to get tested. So far, Tennessee has had a tough schedule. In fact, the 11th toughest schedule in all of college football. And to have the number 1 offense against that is very impressive. That's what's held me back from actually firing a premium play yet on the Sooners. I think this is a coin flip game. You're looking at 2 6-2 teams with almost the exact same point differential. You have Oklahoma with a plus 127 point differential. You have Tennessee with a plus 118 point differential. And both have top 20 toughest schedules. Like this really is a coin flip game. Like when we talk about fights sometimes, and it's whoever goes off as the dog, that's the side I like because I think it's that close of a fight, that type of coin flip. And if you're getting plus money in a coin flip, you got to take it. I think this is a coin flip because I don't think there's much home field advantage for either side. We saw Tennessee go into Oklahoma last year. They beat Oklahoma in Oklahoma. They were favorites to get it done. They got the job done. But more importantly, if you look at this year, they played just as well on the road as they've done at home. And for home field advantage, I'm looking for a team that plays a lot better at home or a lot worse at home than they do on the road. Show me you're 1-3 on the road and 4-0 at home, and that's a strong home field advantage. But if you're 4-0 on the road, 4-0 at home, doesn't really matter where you're playing. So I think this line, it has factored in that home field advantage where in this matchup isn't going to be all that important. I'm telling you now. Again, it's going to be a hype crowd. It's Tennessee, Oklahoma. I get it. But once the game starts, I don't think that's going to be a problem. So I like Oklahoma here. I like the getting 3.5. Whoever took the 3.5, I think they got a great bet. It probably may get back there by Saturday because I am seeing more Tennessee money, like 7 out of 10 bets so far in Tennessee, and the money on Tennessee, even though we saw the line drop a little bit. So put me on Oklahoma for the TV game. I think they go into Tennessee and win outright and surprise a lot, especially coming off that loss like they did against Mississippi last week as almost a touchdown favorite. I think they bounce back here.
All right, a late night special out in Utah, Marco, 10:15 p.m. Eastern. Number 17, Cincinnati is an 8.5-point underdog. At number 24, Utah, 55.5 is the total.
Yeah, Kelly, just say what you said again. Say it again. You got number 17, Cincinnati, at number 24, Utah, and it's over a touchdown. That tells you that, Cincinnati, with the people that actually do this for a living, the bookmakers, aren't as high as the rankings are on them. And, and I agree with them. Utah I was high on this team coming into this year. If you remember, we have a big play for our clients. We got a 5% play on Utah season wins over. So you know where I'm rooting, but I look at this game and Utah, they've held 6 of their 8 opponents to 14 or fewer points. Texas Tech is the only team this year that scored more than 24 points on this defense. They put up 34. Well, 34, that's a decent number, but that's below what Texas Tech had been doing to everybody else. And in those 34 points, they were aided by 4 Utah turnovers in that game. The Utah offense didn't miss a beat last week. Devin Dampier was out of the lineup, and they still put up 53 points on Colorado. Granted, that was Colorado. And if you remember last week, the injury reports upgraded Dampier to questionable, in that game. And there was speculation that he was going to play. They decided game day not to play him. And I think it was because they were playing Colorado and they had this game on deck, which on paper should be a much tougher game. When he's in the lineup, this team's almost unstoppable. They're what I call a 200 club member. They rush for 267. They throw for 210. Cincinnati, a couple times this year, teams that could throw the football, well, they did some damage against the Cincinnati team. They gave up 445 yards passing and 34 points to Kansas, and they gave up 314 yards passing and 30 points to Iowa State. Utah's better than both of those teams. Utah's played a much tougher schedule thus far, and there's a reason they're laying over a touchdown. You'll find out Saturday why. Utah wins 35-20.
Kel, if I may intervene real quickly, Marco, Cincinnati is the 34th best team in the country right now. Utah, the 11th best team in the country. I agree with you 110%.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, I think Marco may have talked me off using Cincinnati as one of my underdogs. We'll see. We'll see. He's talked me off a couple. I've went against him on a couple. We'll see how this one ends up faring. VR, talk about some more of those power ratings. Yeah. Talk to me about some more of those power ratings, what you've got early on for the Steam report here in College Football Week 10.
All right. And like I talked about last week, I'm narrowing down the strongest sides that got hit that I don't see resistance, or I'll let you know where there's been resistance. And more importantly, where I don't believe there's going to be a middle attempt, or it's one of those picking off a weak number. Let me get into all weekday games, all weekend games, all Saturday games. Start off 323 East Carolina -4.5. 332 Florida State -8, -9. Went as high as 10 in some shops. That's where you saw the Wake Forest come in. So Wake Forest +10 is a buy. So if the books get a lot more risk on the Florida State side as it's starting to pile up, rest assured, all they have to do is move it to 10. There will be sharps ready to take it. They just got to hope the game doesn't land 8 or 9. Move on to NC State, 338 +6.5 +6. We'll talk about them a little bit later. 359 UCF +5 +4.5. 364, the Utah side, Marco just touched on. Laid the 7.5 through that key number. 8, 8.5. That's why you're looking at close to a double-digit spread there. Miami, 379. Miami bounced back off their dream-crushing loss. That was impressive last week. The only reason I didn't bet them was that trend. But they laid the 10, 10.5, and 11. 381 West Virginia plus the 15, plus the 14.5, all the way down to plus 14. That's why you can't get 2 touchdowns no more. And finally, South Carolina, 395 plus 13.5 plus 13. Again, those are the strongest moves that I haven't seen resistance except the Wake Forest side. And as you know, totals get hit Thursdays. So pay attention to that odds logic screen. You'll see everything you need to throughout the day. So best of luck. That's this week's theme report in college football.
Yeah, you'll also see VR this weekend, college football on Saturday, NFL on Sunday on Wager Talks Last Call, 11 a.m. Eastern. VR, talk to me real quick about the steam room on Sundays before the NFL kickoff.
Yep. An hour leading in the kickoff. Had a good time this last week. We were able to go through every single game. I share signed total player props that I have for that game. I share any information if we haven't bet it or I don't have any sharp moves from anyone else that shared. Let you know what I'm seeing in the back end of all the books. There to answer all your questions and finally put those plus EV teasers together towards those last 15 minutes. Last week, we actually had one teaser, only one, and then going into the last 15 minutes, the line moved and we just didn't have any teasers. So we stick to those rules and go over year-to-date results, risk management. And like I said, I'm there to answer all your questions and be accountable to my subscribers. So I really love doing it every week. And join us Sunday leading in the kickoff.
Yeah, here on the show, I've been asking the guys to jump in the comments and kind of talk to our audience, ask them what they're looking for and so forth. And Marco, one of the guys reminded me that during the segment, I used to call you Marco Barco. So Marco Barco, you are up first. Tell me which underdog this week in college football you think has the best chance to win outright.
Yeah, Marco Barco comments are every week in there, Kelly. So you haven't been in there enough to see them, but there they are.
I said, guys, I have been guilty. I have not been in there. I'm trying to get in there every single week. You guys got something to say, I'm here to listen. Marco Barco, take the floor.
All right, we're going to go with one here. In the knee-jerk reaction, Baylor returns home, and people are going to look for this team to bounce back. But I just don't trust this Baylor team. I haven't all year. The Baylor offense can score, but I can't lay points with a team that's allowed 117 points over their last 3 games. Guys, even the pathetic Oklahoma State team scored 27 points on this Baylor defense. UCF, they can control the clock with their power running game. This running game has averaged 212 yards per game over the last 4 games. It's that running game that sets up the passing game, which is throwing for 237 per game. And you know what I always say, I love these 200 club members. When you can do over 200 yards, both rushing and passing, it is so tough to defend these type of teams. Baylor, they've been an overvalued commodity all year. Why? Because if you remember when we did a lot of the August preview shows, they were one of the darlings coming in because of the way they ended last season. Everybody thought that there was going to be a natural continuation this year. It hasn't lived up, and the books just keep mispricing them. They're 1-7 against the spread this season. I'm not jumping on a favorite like that. I'll take the team UCF. They've held 5 of 7 opponents to 20 points or less this year. And I always say, give me the better defense, getting points. I'm going to sign up every time. That's my barking dog. It's not as big as last week's barking dog. Come on, Kelly. You didn't give me any credit for that 10.5-point dog last week with Rice.
It was Rice. Do you think I watched that game for one entire second, Marco? Do you think I knew that they won the game outright? I'm sorry. Good job, Marco. Thank you for the double-digit outright winner. I actually was laughing because I remembered it was Rice because I was like, no one cares about this football game. But you know what we do care about? Cashing those tickets. So good job, Marco Barco. VR, you're going with a team here that kind of screwed Marco last week, and I was on them as well. And I'm like, why are we going back to them this week?
Yeah, and it's a 3% play because I couldn't get a touchdown on it. We did get +6, so it's a 3% play. I don't have any 4% this week on Bet On It for the show, because I only narrowed down one really strong play and put that up yesterday as the $2 play. That'll be in Saturday's package. And I really like Saturday's card, but I'm not going to have a lot of volume. So got to save those for the subscribers. With that said, as far as the comments go, I wasn't able to go in last week and really do much, but I have been going in week by week. Keep those comments coming. I'll jump in there this week for sure. And please, you could disagree. Just make sure if you're going to bash, do it before the game starts, not after the game, because we all know the final after the game. With all that said, I've gotten a lot of pushback with my power ratings, and I can promise you, bro, I have no dog in the fight. I don't care. Like, don't tell me about I'm still mad over this team beating this team in 2018. I don't remember what happened 3 weeks ago. I don't have this hatred for your team if I'm fading them. Like, that's not the reason. Like, oh, VR just hates this team or he just hates this team. I don't hate any team. I could care less. I'm just going to follow what my numbers tell me. And what my numbers tell me is this Georgia Tech, as phony as a $3 bill, they played the 63rd toughest schedule in all of college football. 63rd toughest schedule. That's why they're 8-0. They have the 63rd toughest schedule, and they still have the 40th most efficient defense against that schedule, and still the 32nd most efficient offense against that schedule. So they're a top 10 ranked team that's not even in the top 30 in any meaningful offense or defensive category. And they have a schedule that's not even in the top 50 as far as toughest. And you're telling me this is a top 10 team in college football. You're nuts. I actually moved them up. I'm forced each week to move them up, and they're all the way up to 16 right now. So I'm giving them their respect, but top 10, you've lost your mind. Now, NC State, they're nothing to write home about. They're nothing to brag about. They're barely a top 60 team power rating wise. But with all that said, they've had a much tougher strength of schedule. They're only 500, but they have a positive point differential. They're playing at home and catching almost a touchdown. I think this game's a lot closer than that. Again, it's more a fade of Georgia Tech that's been outperforming the betting market. They're coming in undefeated, but more importantly, they've covered 3 straight games. The market's very efficient. An efficient market corrects itself. You're starting to look at a huge correction for Georgia Tech. And again, this is a strong home field advantage. Why? Because NC State's won 3 or 4 games there. They've lost 3 or 4 games on the road. That's the kind of team I want to back at home, especially catching points. Give me the 6 points, 5.5, whatever it is, with NC State. Live dog on the money line.
All right, more live dogs, and I got to give you guys a good one here because I'm giving you a little tiny chihuahua in the NFL. So I said, all right, I'm going to give you guys this one, and you guys are expecting this one. Like, who am I kidding? 8.5 was the highest line I saw on the odds logic screen at this opener. Circa opened, I think, 6. 7 is pretty much across the board here for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. If you like that side, I, however, do not. And I know last week I gave you guys K-State as a best bet. I said I made the game 5. Oh, guess what? I made this game 4. I don't understand where all of this insanity is coming from. I know this team inside and out, and I'm going to tell you why you need to take the touchdown with the Kansas State Wildcats, a team who has now covered 4 straight games, including that ass whooping last week in Lawrence that I didn't predict necessarily, but I did predict the win. Yes, the Cats gifted that Jayhawks team a touchdown right there off the fumble, and a lot of people groaned. I think you guys could hear my pain and sorrow, and I had to order a margarita early on with my friends and said, oh boy, here we go. But then the Cats do what they do best as an underdog. They go and they win the football game. Guess what they did last time they were the underdog versus TCU? They went and won the football game. And guess what they did at Baylor? They should have won the football game, but there was a weird face mask that may or may not have happened allegedly, and they got the cover. This is a spot where K-State is going to get the cover. Yes, Texas Tech has Morton back under center. Yes, he is the better quarterback. But the real reality is this Texas Tech team is vulnerable. We saw it at Arizona State, and you're going to see it in Manhattan at 2:30 Central Time. There this week. I do not know if K-State can win this football game. I think that they are gritty. I think that there was, we'll call it some curses of the Aer Lingus Classic, the same one that got Florida State last year. But I think they have gotten over that hump. And yes, Marco might argue that this is a letdown spot after beating their in-state rival and how important that is. But I think this is a springboard. You beat your in-state rival by such an amount that next week carries over the momentum. You're back at home. Your fan base is bought in. Your coaching staff has things more well-rounded. Some of the distractions are no longer there. So I'm going to get off my pulpit. I'm going to tell you guys that I think K-State +7 is the play. And hopefully they don't break my heart in gut-wrenching fashion. But if they do, we still have Texas Tech 12-1 to win the Big 12, which would secure their spot at least in the mix. We'll leave it at that. Marco, the Deli has been crushing. I mentioned 61.7% on the season. That is in both. Talk to me about how it's been doing in college football and why you think the team that has ripped my guts out the last 2 weeks in a row is now a bet against.
No problem, Kelly. And let me update that record. I updated it on the NFL sheet, but unfortunately, I forgot to update it on the college sheet. It's 23-16 on the Deli. And what Kelly's referring to is the bonus edition. Every week I do a second video. It comes out on Thursdays. You can view that on our YouTube channel or watch the mega show because it is included with all of the shows surrounding Bet on It. We do that. And what I do is I come and give you guys 5 more plays. Generally, it's been 4 college, 1 NFL. Games that just missed being on Bet on It in my angles that I like to use, the sandwich shops, the trap games, all of those type of things. I break them down in detail like I do here, and you can view that on Thursday. Comes out late afternoon on Thursdays, Vegas time, so early evening on the East Coast for you guys. This sandwich game, we're going to take a look at Arkansas and Mississippi State. And Mississippi State, let's be honest, they have been an ATM for their bettors. And 7-1 against the spread is going to get them a lot of love. But I got to ask the question, how many gut-wrenching losses can this Mississippi State team have before the air goes out of the balloon? 2 weeks ago, they lose to Florida by 2 points. Now, I understand Florida's having a bad year, but it's still the name in the program. And for Mississippi State, that was a big game, and they came up just short as a 9.5-point underdog. To their credit, they come right back the very next week, last week, against Texas, and they lose in even more gut-wrenching fashion. They had Texas on the ropes the entire game. What changed the game in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, was a punt return for a touchdown by Texas. And then the other pivotal play was Arch Manning leaving the game with a concussion. Backup quarterback comes in, leads them to a victory in overtime. I got to ask again, how does Mississippi State pick themselves back up off the mat from that? That alone has me looking at Arkansas. Yes, Arkansas has lost 6 in a row, but they keep playing tough in those games. And if you look at their schedule, they've played one of the toughest schedules in the country. And even though they've played a tough schedule, they're still putting up big offensive numbers. 6.1 yards per play on the ground, 9.1 yards per play through the air. This is a spot where they got to take advantage of a team that I feel is deflated and then throw in the sandwich. This is the mother of all sandwiches. Mississippi State played Texas at home last week. They play Georgia at home next week. How do you get excited for that game in the middle against Arkansas that's lost 6 in a row? It's a great spot for Arkansas. Give me that sandwich. I know all those Mississippi State lovers that have been cashing all year don't want to fade them, but this is the spot to do it.
I'm the Mississippi State lover. Hi, it's me. Yeah, this is losing that game up double digits marks the 6th underdog that was in my parlay, Marco, this year that blew a double-digit lead. So it has been a really fun one, and I hope Mississippi State gets the breaks beat off of them by the Hogs after what they did to me last week. Is that mean? Is that hateful? Is that spiteful? Speaking of, let's get to those best bets. VR, you are up first. Before you give me your best bet for college football week 10, please let me know what you've got going on over at wagertalk.com.
Yeah, I have a Thursday best bet up. Those primetime games have been on fire for us, and fired one right away. Thursday night primetime, 4% best bet in college football. Number one in college football. We've won 9 of the 10 weeks. We've turned a profit in college football overall. I have my Saturday card up as well. 4% in there. Also, fired 2-3% already. Looking to confirm some really strong plays for Saturday. I like this board. Sunday, the NFL card will not go up till later in the week because we are firing a 5% in the NFL. I'm going for my 3rd straight NFL 5% winner. Only fired 4 of those this year. 3 of those have cashed. Narrowed one down for us this weekend. So big weekend. And of course, we have the UFC card as well. So yeah, busy couple days. Good time to jump on board. Steam room on Sunday. So just looking to keep piling on profit, NFL and college football.
All right, VR, week 10 is kind of interesting. We start to see the rubber meet the road. Teams that need 6 wins to get into the bowl games. And you've got kind of an under-the-radar team for us this week that might start to fit that criteria over the next couple weeks.
And before I share that, real quickly, and I want to see those comments in the chat. Tell me where I'm wrong, honestly, because the good thing is by the end of the year, we'll know who was right, who was wrong. The overrated teams, because I didn't give you guys a 4% best bet this week, I'll give you some good information based on my power ratings. I'm going to tell you who else is phony in those rankings. BYU, phony. All right, they just made my top 20. Texas A&M, they're the next one that's going to be exposed. They are barely a top 15 team. They would only be a true number, a 1-point favorite against a 5-2 USC team based on my power ratings. Yes, Texas A&M should only be about a 1-point favorite against 5-2 USC. But the biggest phony of them all is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt would be an underdog to 4-4 Kansas State. They would be an underdog to 4-4 Auburn. And yet, they are ranked number 9 in the country. Nobody phonier than Vanderbilt right now. As far as best bets go, out here where I'm living, UNLV, New Mexico, and we're going to fade UNLV. Now, I know when the season started, UNLV didn't go in the camp thinking they're going to win a national championship. But they were excited about this year's team, I can tell you, because I live here. Well, they had their dream crusher last week, okay? The Marco trend that's been money for us for decades. And there's no reason to fade it here. That loss cost them big time for UNLV. And even though they're a 6-1 team, they have a point differential of only 26. And the reason for that, they have a terrible defense. The 108th most efficient defense in all college football. You can't be laying points when you're the 108th best defense. The back door is going to stay open the entire game. And that's a team that's barely had a top 60 strength of schedule. You look at New Mexico, they have 2 more losses and yet a higher point differential. Another really close game that's much closer to a coin flip than almost a 2-1 favorite in the case of the money line for UNLV. Take the 3.5. That's still available. Buy it to 4 at anything less than 122. 4 is a really good number to get in this game. Open 5.5. That got picked off. The 5 got picked off. The 4.5 got picked off. It'll probably get down to that key number of 3 because multiple groups took New Mexico. I agree with them. So if you agree with me, don't wait. This line's probably not going to stay this high. So that's my bet for this week. Best bet, New Mexico, 3% sent to my subscribers.
All right, Marco, you've got a team that has potential to make the ACC championship game. But before you get into that, tell everybody how things have been going over at wagertalk.com. We've got multiple sports going on. We've got college basketball right around the corner.
We've got all kinds of deals going, and obviously the Weekend Warrior has been the most popular package. $49, you get all of your favorite handicappers' plays in football Saturday and Sunday. And if your handicapper that you purchased has a Monday night play, that gets thrown in free as well. But we've kind of come back and gave you a deal. It's almost too good to pass up, Kelly. If you're paying $49 for the weekend for football, I'm going to tell you about a deal that's going to cost you $35 a week, and you're going to get every football play, including all of those weekday plays. Here is the deal. Get the rest of the college and NFL season. College through the national championship game, NFL through the Super Bowl for just $490. That takes you service in football through February 8th, I think is the Super Bowl. That comes out to $35 a week. That's less than what you're paying right now for the Weekend Warrior package. It includes all those 5% plays that sell for $35 by themselves. Take advantage of this offer. Head on over to wagertalk.com. You can pick out as many cappers as you want. And for me, we hit our 5% play last week. It was in the NFL on Sunday with Houston Texans. That brings our record to 34-16 the last 2 years on those 5% plays. We've got another one coming this weekend. Grab the Weekend Warrior or go for the better deal and grab the rest of the season. As far as best bets go, Kelly, we are going to look at a team that is in the hunt for the ACC title, and that is Virginia. But, man, they're making their followers pull their hair out because they keep winning close games. They haven't covered the last couple of weeks, but they keep finding a way to win. And I think because of those close games the last few weeks, we're getting some line value here. They're 7-1 and ranked 15th in the country, but they've won their last 3 games by a combined 6 points. Now, Virginia had pulled off back-to-back upsets over Florida State and Louisville. Okay, that started them to get attention. And it was after those 2 wins that they were a big favorite against Washington State, a non-conference game. Well, they kind of looked past Washington State and had to rally to win that game by 2 points. They were down double digits at halftime. Clearly, they looked past them. Then the last week, they went to North Carolina and escaped with a 1-point victory, 17-16. Now, I think people are overreacting to that because everybody remembers how bad North Carolina was to start the season. But if you look the last 2 weeks, since they came off their bye week, where Belichick had an extra week to sort things out, get stuff that didn't work out of there, fix the things, tweak the things that did work, they've played back-to-back good games. They went to California and gave California all they could handle, and then they gave Virginia all they could handle last week. So I'm not going to overreact to last week's close game, but I am going to overreact to California. Although they look like a very live dog, they're coming off a gut-wrenching loss last week. And again, it was one of those Friday night primetime games. They played Virginia Tech, and they ended up losing that game in double overtime. I do not like backing teams off of an overtime loss, let alone a double overtime loss. California cannot run the football. They've been held to 80 or fewer yards in 5 of their last 6 games. My numbers say that this line should be closer to 7 than it should be to 4, as the market has overreacted, as I said. And let's face it, all these close games that Virginia's played in recent weeks, if this game is tight in the fourth quarter, doesn't that give the advantage to Virginia because they keep playing these tight games and finding ways to win? Whereas California had a tight game, go to overtime, they found a way to lose. I'm going to go ahead and take Virginia. This is one of those buy low scenarios. Give me Virginia, lay the 4. I've got them winning this one by 10, 30-20.
All right, Marco and I were head-to-head on this team last week. I had the 7.5 with Northwestern. He had the push with Nebraska. And look, did Northwestern really have a chance to win that game? Probably not. Nebraska really controlled the time of possession. They controlled the tempo, and their defense did a few things to benefit them. And that's why I like them now catching almost a touchdown here at home. Against a USC team we've been betting against on the road since they entered the Big Ten. They're now 1-8 straight up against the spread in games played in the Central or Eastern time zone. The Trojans have since lost in the Big Ten 6 games as a road favorite. I think this one becomes 7. I know there's a lot of rumors about Matt Rule going to Penn State, but Nebraska did not seem bothered by that in the slightest last week. Remember, this Michigan team just a few weeks ago closed at a pick'em at Nebraska. Now all of a sudden they are a touchdown home dog. Maybe I'll let VR kind of allude to the power ratings there, but I think that they're pretty close, rated the same. I think this number is way too high. I like Nebraska with the better defense here at home as my best bet for college football week number 10. Let's get that recap graphic up for everybody so that you guys can have it from VR, Marco, and myself. Until next week, let's bet on it. If you guys are looking for that mega show, college football, NFL, and all of the specialty segments right here. And of course, the NFL edition of Bet On It.
Another week of college football TNA. Welcome. We are into the first week of November. I am Ralph Michaels. This is the Wager Talk College Football Trends and Angles Report. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to tune in. We're going to look at conference stats. Those are conference teams playing in conference games, the best and worst this season. We're going to look about teams in a ranked sandwich. That means you played a ranked opponent last week, you're playing a non-ranked opponent this week, and you have a ranked opponent on deck. And we're going to end up with 4 systems that are 88%, 77%, 74%, and 65% with a 69% bonus over-under system. Let's get right to it. Conference games, the last 2 years. On the very top of the chart, you see those are the 2025 conference games broken down by conference. So it's only conference versus conference opponents. On the bottom of the chart, you see I put last year's numbers in there for reference for 2024. The left-hand side, you see those are ATS at home, and then a home favorite, a home dog. And on the right-hand side of the chart, those are over-under records for the home team, and then as a home favorite and home dog. I will post this on Twitter at CalSportsLV on Friday. So if you want to take a deeper dive and break down some of the data, feel free to do so. A couple of things I want to point out. First, let's look at the ATS home teams for 2025. Guys, this just jumps out at you. The MAC, the Mid-American Conference. Home teams in the MAC this year in conference games, 21-6, 78% against the spread. Home favorites, 80%. Home dogs, 75%. It doesn't matter. The home teams in the MAC continue to win. I do want to point out last year, they were the second highest conference. If you look below, they were 56.2% in home teams. So that's a very strong 2-year trend for those teams betting the MAC. And remember, MACtion starts, I believe, next week. We're going to have MAC games Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll see if that trend continues. The worst ATS conferences at home this year. Well, that is the American Conference and the Big 12. Those teams are 41.4% against the spread and 41.9% against the spread. And if you look at the AAC, you see the home dogs are 38.5%. One also thing I want to point out, I can talk. One thing I also want to point out, excuse me, look at the Big Ten. They're 41.9% overall. But home favorites in the Big Ten, 9-17, 34.6%. Home dogs, 9-8, 53%. So you can't just look at the home records. Break out the home favorites, home dogs. That's why I break them out for you on the chart. Sliding over to the right-hand side, looking at totals this year. Well, when Sun Belt teams meet, Those games have gone 17-10, 63% to the under. And we know the MAC home teams have been special, but those games have also gone under the total to the tune of 56%. They're 12 and 15 over under, so just a couple games under. Again, when you have these small sample sizes, the percentages sometimes are a bit misleading. But take a look at the SEC. Just like the Big Ten with the home favorite and home dog divide, when an SEC team is a home favorite, they are 8 and 14 over under. That is 36.4%. When the SEC team at home is an underdog, 10 overs and 4 unders, 71.4%. Guys, a great college football season. We cashed a 5% last week on Toledo and Washington State under the total. It covered by 12 points. I have another 5% in college football this week. It is loaded. So if you go and you buy the Weekend Warrior right now, $49 for all of my Saturday college football, all of my Sunday NFL, and any Monday night NFL if I have one. Buy it today, $49. You'll get every play I already loaded because I do want you to play them quick. That 5% total moved 2 points last week. Make sure you get the best line. Couple more records in college football. 11 and 3, 79% the last 14 games. 38 and 18 the last 56 plays. That is 68%. College football plays rated 4% and 5%. 5 straight winners, and 19 and 6, 76%. My college football 5%, 10 and 2, 83%. And I'll also have a strong teaser. My NFL teasers rated 4% and 5%. Now 18 and 4, 82%. If you already watched the NFL TNA video, we talked about division sandwiches in that segment. Well, now I want to break down a ranked sandwich. That means you are off a game against a ranked opponent. You are playing an unranked opponent this week, and you have an opponent that is currently ranked for next week on deck. Well, on the chart, you see on the left-hand side, I put every team ranked in the top 25, and what teams did in that ranked sandwich. On the right-hand side, those are only top 10s. That means you played an opponent in the top 10 last week, and the opponent is currently ranked in the top 10 at the time when you're playing your game. I was surprised at the home records overall or for the top 10 sandwich, 51.4% and 52%. But those teams as a home favorite in a ranked sandwich, you'll see 49.5%. And if you're in a top 10 ranked sandwich, those home favorites, only 46.7%. The home dogs, 49% and 60%, but only a 10-game sample size as a home dog in a top 10 sandwich. The road numbers did surprise me. Away favorites in a top 25 sandwich, 53%, 58% in a top 10 sandwich. Away dogs, 55.4% and 50%. There are 3 teams that apply this week in ranked sandwich games. Syracuse versus North Carolina, and Baylor versus UCF, as well as Mississippi State versus Akron. So Syracuse, Baylor, and Mississippi State find themselves in this ranked sandwich situation. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in each and every week. The comments have been amazing. Keep the suggestions coming. Hit that like button if you learned one thing. That's my goal. Every time I do a video, if I can help you learn one thing to make you a better, I've had a successful video. Hit the like button, leave your comments, and make sure you're following Wager Talk on all their social media networks. Over 300,000 people follow Wager Talk, find out why, and become part of this ever-growing group. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We have 4 systems for you. We have a Navy team that is an away dog against North Texas. Should they be an away dog? Well, I'll tell you what, the system says they should. Single-digit away dogs. So you're an away dog from +1 to +9.5. A total of higher than 58. You have at least 7 wins, again, with no losses. So you are deep into the season, a legitimate chance of running the table. The only other parameters is your opponent has to be a winning team and he has to have lost a game, which fits the North Texas situation. Those teams like Navy, as the away dog, facing an opponent with more than 1 loss but a winning record, 4 ATS wins and 21 ATS losses. Those teams like Navy have covered 16% of the time. System number 2, Sam Houston State plays Friday night. So let's look at a team that is a conference away dog. They're off a loss that they failed to cover, and they have a lower win percentage. Well, they're obviously a dog for a reason, right? They're off a loss, a straight up an ATS loss. They have a lower win percentage. They're now on the road as a conference dog. The only advantage the team has in this scenario is they have at least 5 more days of rest. So how does that team do off a disappointing game traveling? Pretty good. The extra rest, very powerful, helping these teams. Those teams, like Sam Houston State, have gone 26-8-1, 76.5% against the spread. Our third system. Conference road teams with the lines between the 10s. So you're on the road, you could be a single-digit dog or a single-digit favorite. A total of more than 46. We're excluding weeks 13 and later. So we're getting rid of those last couple rivalry weeks. So legitimate part of the midseason, away conference game, line between the 10s, and you shut out your opponent like Texas Tech did. Those teams off the shutout. In this situation, 43, 15, and 3 since 2008. That is 74.1%. And the last system is both a play on and an over. Away teams, when both opponents, when you held each of your last 2 opponents to 14 points or less, and now you're a away favorite of 3 touchdowns or more with a total of 45 or more. Well, Maryland's held Indiana's held two of their last 2 foes to 14 points or less. And on the season, they've only allowed 1 opponent to score more than 14 points. So they have fit into the system previously this year. So those away teams as a favorite of 21 or more with a total of 45 or more off back-to-back games allowing 14 points or less, 44 and 24, 64.7 against the spread. And those big away favorites have pulled away and given up some points because they are also 47 and 21, 69.1% to the over. System 1, fade Navy. System 2 says play on Sam Houston. System 3, play on Texas Tech. System 4, play on Indiana and play on Indiana, Maryland over the total. My 5% is loaded. The Weekend Warriors, just $49. Don't miss another college football 5% winner. Hit that like button. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you haven't watched it yet, make sure to check out my NFL TNA video.